Welcome to the We Talk Health Podcast, the official podcast for West Tennessee Healthcare. Please be advised that this podcast is not intended to replace any medical advice. Always follow your medical professional's advice and direction. Nothing said in this podcast is intended to supersede or supplement the direction of your medical caretakers. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at wetalkhealthpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our best to answer any questions you may have.
Welcome to another episode of We Talk Health. My name is Kwasigroh, and today we're going to be talking about food, which is awesome. I love food. Joining me today is Allison Haynes. She is the outpatient dietitian at the Lift Wellness Center. Allison, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on today. And as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about food. One initiative that West Tennessee Healthcare is doing throughout the year of 2021 is cooking recipes that are going to be airing once a month. Allison and I are going to be talking about heart health. We have done a video at the Lift Wellness Center that you can find in the description of this podcast of the recipe we're talking about being cooked. The day that we were there, out of the 4 recipes that I tried, this one was my absolute favorite. It was insanely delicious. It's a chicken avocado pasta. There should be a picture of this in the description as well if you want to check it out. It was insanely tasty. It did not look hard to make at all. When we were there filming it, I was like, oh, I can make this tonight, and I'm going to. So yeah, Allison, just I guess tell me a little bit about yourself and then maybe why you chose this recipe, and we'll kind of dive into what's involved in the recipe and what makes it healthy for your heart.
Okay, yeah. So, like you said, my name's Allison. I've been a dietitian since 2016, so about 5 years now. And I've been a dietitian at Lyft for just over a year now.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you love food. Well, I love food so much, I decided to major in it. So I was going to ask, what made you want to do?
Yeah, that's awesome. What's some of your favorite recipes to make?
Lately, I've been, just because it's a little chilly, I've been on a soup kick.
Awesome. Love soup.
So I love soup just because you can throw literally whatever in there. You know, I just kind of like clean out the fridge or clean out the pantry, you know, beans, vegetables, whatever you want, just throw it in there. And it's been cold. So
yeah.
So it makes me feel good.
So yeah, like I mentioned, we were going to be talking about the recipe that was made for heart health. This podcast is airing in February of 2021. So Heart Month, Valentine's Day, big thing. So I guess my main question is, why chicken avocado pasta?
Yeah, so I really liked this dish for a number of reasons, mostly because it you can touch on almost all of the main parts of heart health while cooking this dish. So the dish features whole grains, vegetables, lean proteins, all of which can contribute to a healthier heart. But it also is a great example of how you can incorporate soluble fiber in your diet, how you can incorporate lean protein sources, and how using, fresh or dried herbs and spices can give you a lot of flavor without needing to use salt or sodium.
That's a big thing, especially in the South, is we like to flavor our food with salt.
Absolutely.
So if we can find alternatives that are healthier, obviously that's a better option for us.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this earlier, but I will actually put the recipe in the description as well. So if you're one of these people who are like, I don't care, I don't want to hear about it, I just want to read the recipe, it's going to be there for you too. So let me ask you this. Why did you choose whole grain pasta as opposed to not whole grain pasta?
Yeah, just like a white pasta.
Right.
So I chose whole grain pasta. The dietary guidelines for Americans recommends that about half of your grains are whole grains.
Okay.
So it was one way for me to sneak in some whole grains. I love using whole grain pasta because anytime you use a sauce, it largely masks the slightly different texture that the whole grain noodles have instead of like the white noodles.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so it's a great way to sneak in whole grains, whether you're trying to get a kid to eat whole grains or a picky family member or spouse, or even if you're just a little bit picky on
Sure. I guess there is a bit of, maybe gritty is not the right word.
Right.
But
it's got like, instead of when you bite, it's not as soft. It's just got a little bit more texture to it, I guess.
Some people are texture people and can't really eat things like that. So, but if it's covered in some sort of sauce, in this case, an avocado, which if you don't like avocado, you probably won't like this dish. But if you do, I feel like you're going to love it. And it doesn't even feel like you're quote unquote eating healthy.
Right.
It just feels like you're eating delicious, which,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
And that's the goal.
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite parts of the dish was asparagus and the roasted tomatoes. They were amazing, and they took 20 minutes to make.
Yeah,
Not
they're
very long at all.
super simple. I mean, you just put the asparagus or tomatoes, or you can do it with any vegetable, really. Put it on a baking sheet. Usually drizzle a little bit of like olive oil or something like that. And then just put on some spices or some seasonings. For the tomatoes and asparagus, we just used olive oil, some pepper, maybe even some garlic powder.
I think that's right.
Yeah, just kind of mixed it up and popped it in the oven real quick, just until it was tender. I mean, it's so good.
You were asking us when we were filming if we cut our asparagus, or if we essentially break it.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anyone breaking asparagus before. So is there like a reason why you might want to do that as opposed to cutting it?
I like to do it just because the asparagus, there's a firmer part of the asparagus down at the base of it. Usually that's why you cut off the ends, because you don't want that tougher piece.
Right.
So if you bend it, like the top half or 3/4 or so is usually pretty flexible. So if you bend it and just let the hard part break off, you don't get any of the tough, extra fibrous parts at the bottom. So I think it just cooks easier and it tastes better.
Tell me why you chose chicken.
So I chose chicken mostly because I like chicken. Also, it's a
good
lean
reason.
Right. It's a lean protein source, and I thought that it fit a little bit better with this dish. You know, pasta and chicken, vegetables and chicken. I mean, they go pretty well together. So we definitely want to focus on lean protein sources, which is, again, why I chose the chicken, because the saturated fat is going to be less in those lean protein sources than maybe in like a fattier piece of beef or, you know, maybe just a fattier cut of meat. So I believe we used thinly sliced chicken breast.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so it's going to be lower in fat, which means it's going to be lower in saturated fat. And that's the good thing, because that saturated fat can increase your LDL cholesterols, also known as your bad cholesterol. So anytime we can lower that number, it's probably a good thing.
Now, what about the pasta sauce? I know it was avocado mixed with...
Yeah, for the avocado sauce, we mixed avocado, some extra virgin olive oil, basil, garlic clove, some lemon juice, and some pepper. We mixed it in a blender. And the interesting thing about that sauce is it doesn't really look like a sauce. It's pretty thick. So you can add a little bit of water and a little bit of oil to kind of thin it out just a little bit. You don't want to thin it out too much. But I love that sauce because it uses the basil, the garlic, and the lemon juice to really give it the flavor instead of relying on something like salt, which is the sauce. You know, most sauces we need to add quite a bit of salt to give it flavor.
As I've said several times, this recipe was delicious. It was my favorite one that was made that day. If someone was interested in reaching out to you about you becoming their dietitian or going through the lift to try to get healthier, what would be your phone number for them to reach out to?
My phone number, my direct line to my office is 731-425-6964. And if you happen to have insurance and you are looking to see if insurance would possibly cover your dietitian visit, feel free to reach out to your doctor and have them fax over a referral. And we can see if your insurance would cover at least part of it or maybe even all of it in terms of the visit.
Perfect. And what about if someone was interested in just reaching out to the lift about becoming a member?
Yeah, that information, go ahead and give the lift a call. That phone number is going to be 731-427-7048.
Listeners, like I said, this recipe was insanely easy and was delicious. There's an image in the description of the podcast of what it looks like. There's also a video link to go watch how it was made. Allison, thank you so much for coming in today, and this has been another episode of We Talk Health.